I call to order this November 13th, 2023, Henderson County Board of Public Education Board meeting. Would all rise for the presentation of colors, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Guard, hold, post, ready, good, ready, face, freezing, arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Ready, face, forward, march. Forward, march.
May be seated. That was the North Henderson High School Air Force JROTC under the leadership of Colonel Eric Runquist. First order of business is the agenda approval. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up is going to be staff, student, and board recognitions. Mr. Margarrett. Sorry, it's just me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, all of you present. We certainly are glad to have you this evening as we honor several of our students and a couple of community members. Speaking of the North Henderson High School Air Force JROTC program, they finished first place overall in the UNC Charlotte 49er Classic Drill Competition, and we want to honor the entire cadets. They weren't all here this evening, but if the 4 cadets who are here, if you would step up, please. And Mr. Shepard, or Dr. Shepard, if you want to come share just a word or two about this fine program.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. We're certainly proud of these cadets and Colonel Runquist and Senior Master Sergeant Clark, who lead these fine students and their leadership qualities. They ran the table at the 49ers Classic. That's cadets from all over North Carolina and South Carolina. That's on the backs of them going down to Florida last year and winning that national competition. And so they're undefeated right now. Let's give them a round of applause. Yeah. They do a great job. Beyond their competition in drill service, the thing I love about Colonel Runquist and Senior Master Sergeant Clark, and really what I love about all over 110 cadets at North Henderson High School, is the amount of service that they do for our community. If you hadn't noticed on social media, well over, I don't know how many events they served over the Veterans Day holiday. The amount of schools in our community that they went to and, presented colors at the color guard, nursing homes, all over our community, all over the weekend, Colonel Runquist and Senior Master Sergeant running around with these cadets, presenting colors for our community. So the countless amount of hours that go in, and not just for our school board here, but really just for our community as a whole, is really what I'm super proud of. You can see here their awards that they ran at the 49ers Classic. They went there in first place all around in a lot of those area and individual awards. So we have a few of our cadets here that we would love to recognize, and then we're going to give a lot more to take back with them and as they recognize later on this week. But again, let's give these cadets a round of applause and Colonel Runquist and Senior Master Sergeant. Miss Fiona Mill. Colby Paris. Aiden Rodriguez. And Carson Waller.
So as we get a photo, I will share again that we have a certificate for all the cadets, but certainly wanted to honor the 4 who came and present the colors, and they did an outstanding job there. But once again, congratulations to North Henderson. And Colonel Runquist, thank you for your leadership as well. I don't know if I'm, there we go. Next up, I would like to call Mr. Fisher up to share about the Hendersonville Lady Bearcat tennis. If those of you of a certain age remember, there was a show in the 80s called Dynasty. This is a much different type of dynasty. Coach? All right, Coach. You'll know more about it than any of us will anyway. But certainly, Hendersonville Lady Bearcats just completed their 5th consecutive 2A North Carolina State Championship. And although I know all of these young ladies were taught in kindergarten to share, I'm certainly glad you're not sharing those titles. So your senior class that will step up before you tonight has not lost in the state championship. They have 4 straight. And then you have 2 members of a very successful dual tennis championship team, one of which, Eliza Perry, has won 4 consecutive dual tennis titles, and Ramsey Ross has won 3. So Miss Perry has 8 state championships. 8. So, Coach, if you come up and share a little bit about the season and talk about these young ladies.
Thank you. Just gives me great pleasure to speak about these great young women. I think the biggest thing about this is they know that they are a family and they play as one. I think that's sometimes hard to find these days, but I'm just speaking from what I think. But no, these ladies are great. The last 2 years that I have coached them, they have come together as one team and they understand their role, which I think is absolutely just something that should be recognized because, when you understand that something's bigger than you, I think you are giving yourself more of a chance to succeed more often in most things you do in life. So that's what they know. They know that, being a team is bigger than themselves, and they work together and they play together and they rise above. And I'm super proud of them, and I think you should be too. So let's give them another big hand. Do you want me to introduce the ones that are here? Okay. All right. Starting with Eliza Perry, our senior at line 1. Should I do nicknames too? No. Okay, it's okay. At line 2, Ramsey Ross. At line 3, Raleigh Pritchard. At line 4, Reese Redden. At line 5, Anna McDowell. And at line 6, Sophie Gallion. And I think that's all we have for you right now. Okay, yes, sir. Go Bearcats. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Gale. Appreciate it.
Coach Jones, we want you to get a picture of them too. Also, 2 additional that we wanted to mention is the duo of Miss Eliza Perry and Ramsey Ross. So individually. You all stood out as well, so congratulations. The other thing that is not up here is when I was reading through the NCHSAA website, Miss Eliza Perry was also named the most outstanding player of the tournament, and Miss Ramsey Ross was named the sportsmanship winner of the tournament. So it was a good day and a good season to be a Lady Bearcat. If you'll jump over and grab a picture, we'd love to have them. Next up, we get to honor two of our school resource officers. And we have talked multiple times as a board and as a district and as a community about how fortunate we are to have the resource officer team that we do, and the commitment of not only the Board of Commissioners, but specifically of Sheriff Griffin and his allocation of resources and his understanding that school safety is our number one priority. We talk a lot about teaching and learning, and that is very, very important. But the first thing that you want to know when you drop your student off is that they are as safe as we can possibly make it for them, both in the internal things that we do and the external partners that we work with each and every day. So I'm going to ask that Mr. Van Cannon come up and share just a little bit about Deputy Sean Metcalf, and then I want to talk about the extraordinary work that he did specifically recently. And you want to make him uncomfortable, make him come down and stand?
Yes. Come on down, Tom.
Very few times do we get to tell law enforcement officers what to do, but I think we'll.
Sean has loved all of the attention that he's gotten lately. No, he's very uncomfortable with all the attention, but I can tell you this. I've worked with a number of school resource officers here in Henderson County, but also in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, and Sean is as good as it gets. He's great at building relationships with our kids, with the community. He's involved in everything that we have going on. He may be playing dodgeball in the gym with some of our kids. He's out at the playground with them. He's helping serve lunch. Sometimes when we're shorthanded, he just kind of pitches in and does whatever is necessary. We had a Dads and Donuts Day a couple Saturdays ago. He brings the gator out from the farm, helps us spread mulch. So he is as involved in the school as any school resource officer. His kid is also one of our students, so that's part of the reason we can pull him into all of those activities. But Sean is absolutely amazing. He gets out in the population. He knows our families. As Mr. Garrett will talk about the events of October 9th. Part of the reason why things went the way that they did was because of how proactive Sean is, first off, but how he knows our families second. And so our SROs, all of them, they're invaluable to the way that we run and operate our schools. They're more than just protection for us. They're mentors for our students. They're comfort for our staff, and they're valuable members of our schools. So we appreciate all of them. I've worked games and all kinds of things with all of these guys. They're all phenomenal, but Sean's as good as it gets. So.
So I want to share briefly about October 9th, and then I'm going to ask Sheriff Griffin, if you don't mind, to come up and speak as well. But before that, what I knew Deputy Metcalf for is he's the shoe-tying sheriff. So he helps kids learn to tie their shoes, and when they are proficient, they go up on the wall as the shoe-tying sheriff. So if you walk into Edneyville right now and you turn down by the office, right next to the office, posted proudly, is Deputy Metcalf and the shoe-tying sheriff and all of his deputies that are there. On a personal note, he is another long-suffering Tennessee fan, so that is how we bonded. I always tease, they gave me a degree, so I better support them. So, but on October 9th, alert went out because of an incident that happened at the local Burger King on Four Seasons. And I'm sorry, McDonald's. They're all right there together. Anyway, at McDonald's on Four Seasons. Obviously, we were keeping an eye on what happened. When we found out that not long after, Deputy Metcalf had been on the radio, had identified the potential that the suspect was a parent at Edneyville Elementary School, and went ahead and secured the building and walked out front in anticipation that the gentleman may come onto campus. That did come to fruition, and probably within 30 to 40 seconds, Deputy Metcalf, because of his knowledge of the building, his knowledge of his kids, his knowledge of the community and of those parents and those relationships, without incident, had this gentleman subdued and was waiting on others to come assist him. I want that to sink in just a little bit about the importance of knowing people and building community. And that was why we chose to honor Deputy Metcalf tonight. I would ask Sheriff Griffin to come up and say a couple of words. One thing that we did is we've done a certificate, and certainly congratulations and thank you for all you do, both visibly and behind the scenes. And I know you love to be behind the scenes unless it's talking with kids. But one of the latest things I saw him do, I was leaving the school about a week ago, and he has the flag crew out in the afternoon showing them how to take the flag down and fold the flag. So, you know, that proactiveness, when we talk about community policing and the community law enforcement model, he personifies that. So what we have done is we have a challenge coin that is kind of a generic challenge coin because we know that's something that law enforcement does, but we have some custom ones being made. So we will get you a Henderson County Public Schools challenge coin when it comes in. But in the meantime, I know this tradition we wanted to honor, and congratulations. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you for everything.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the events that occurred on October the 9th shows us all, I included as a resident, how fortunate we are to have the caliber of law enforcement, men and women throughout all of our ranks, willing to step out in front and serve us. Corporal Gearing, this was a team effort, and that Corporal Gearing understood the threat. He made sure his team was aware of the threat. And when you're talking about a threat, it doesn't get much bigger than this. As a career law enforcement officer, I can tell you when you're faced with challenging, the immediate challenge of interdicting someone that is accused of just taking someone else's life, and you have to do that without backup. That's a pretty broad challenge to accept. And Deputy Metcalf, which I had no doubts would do what he did, but he accepted that challenge head on. So as a resident, and as a sheriff, I couldn't be any prouder than I am right now of the actions of Deputy Metcalf. And again, thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Yes, sir.
Should we tell the board that his biggest fear, he was afraid he was going to have to speak.
I mean, we will allow him that opportunity, but
Well, I know we've said it before, you know, and people sometimes wonder, you know, do we need an officer? Do we need a deputy in every school? And this just shows that we do, and the proper training, and I mean to do what he did without any incident. I mean that's a person, that's a training, that's a department, that's a county. I mean that's tough to do, and it was done. So, hats off to all y'all.
And Mr. Egoff, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was one thing that I wanted to share with the crowd is that we are very blessed that we do not split resource officers among elementary schools, which is very common in really across the United States. And the commitment that the sheriff and his department have made has not gone unnoticed on me, but this is a very valid point of this is why it's great to have your own resource officer on your own campus for those reasons of tying shoes, multiplication tables, taking the flag down, and then when you need that security piece, it is there for you. So switching gears, we get to honor another school resource officer. Come on down, Deputy Ross. Now, I'm going to just go out on a limb. Deputy Ross is not typically as shy as Deputy Metcalf. I say that with all the reverence in the world, Deputy. But she has been honored as the 2023 North Carolina Grange Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. This is a statewide award setting her apart from all officers, not just SROs in North Carolina. We lay claim to Deputy Ross because she is the resource officer at Rugby Middle School and takes care of that and bosses Dr. Medeiros around really well, does a great job. But certainly I want the sheriff to speak to this award. We just wanted to say we're super proud of you. We are so grateful that you are part of us, and we wanted to share this moment along with you. We've got this certificate, and again, we have a challenge going for you, and when the custom one comes in, we will get it in your hands. So congratulations, and thank you for everything you do.
This is interesting because I know something you don't. No, I really appreciate the relationship to start with that we have, that I have with Mr. Garrett and all the school administration, and it allows us to go back and forth like this. I just learned today where we're celebrating Donnie Ross's achievement as 2023 North Carolina Grange Law Enforcement Officer of the Year. That was just elevated to the national.
What? That is awesome. That's pretty cool.
Again, I'm going to repeat what I said. As a sheriff, but more importantly, as a resident of this county, couldn't be prouder. You see the caliber, and this is not something, what these folks do when we talked about the shoe tying program, when we talk about all the time that Deputy Ross puts in individually with students. This is not something that's trained at the academy. This is not something that's forced upon them from our office on First Avenue. This is something that comes from within. And again, congratulations, Donnie. Tremendous award, but well-deserved. And again, I'm humbled just to be part of the team that you're on. Thank you.
And before we end up the celebration period, if we go back to the very front of the slide presentation, please. There we go. One thing that I wanted to share as we are coming off of Veterans Day weekend, if you are a veteran of our U.S. Armed Forces, would you please stand? We thank you for your dedication and your commitment to your country and your service to all of us. I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, we have a wall of honor that is up on our website right now that honors those who served our U.S. Armed Forces and our colleagues all across Henderson County Public Schools. So you can go to our website, see the wall of honor, and it has it separated by branch of service. And we send this out every year. We post it, and I hope folks will jump on there and celebrate along with us. And if you know of others who don't necessarily give us their names, because some like to be a little bit more discreet than others, we'll be glad to add them to this list. But certainly, thank you for your service to our nation and everyone's service who is a veteran. That concludes our celebration period. We had quite the celebration. Even the upstage from the sheriff was outstanding and just speaks again to the variety of wonderful things going on all across Henderson County Public Schools. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. How do we move on from here?
Right.
All right, and moving on, we're going to do a program highlight, and this is Mr. Scott Moore.
And you're right, Mr. Chairman. How do we move on from there?
How do we?
So we're going to go from celebrating to celebrating. This is a form of celebration. And oddly enough, I'm going to start by talking about legislation. In the recent legislative session, there was some legislation passed that put some new requirements on us as school employees. Essentially what it says is all middle and high school students must complete a career development plan that includes at minimum, and I'm not going to read all of this, but a student self-assessment, exploration and identification of pathways for careers. This is the top two bullets here are very important. A student may not be promoted from 7th grade until a career development plan is completed. And then again, a student must not be promoted from 10th grade until that career development plan has been revisited. And then we are to ensure that we are kind of shepherding that process with the kids as we go, trying to help them see all of the careers that are available to them. Mr. Garrett and I have had some conversations about how important it is to present things as careers and not jobs, and I think that's something that we're working towards doing with our students. And then it says that State Board of Education is going to establish a pilot of 20 LEAs, and we were selected to be part of this pilot that will work over the remainder of this year to determine what it is that the career development plans must look like. And then the final bullet down here is the one that is hugely important. No funding or staffing is dedicated to this new program. So while I am 100% behind the concept of career development plans for all of our kids, it's the right work. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? Well, this is one of those situations where a new requirement met a really awesome opportunity at the right time. So the Dogwood Trust, back in the spring, prior to the legislation being publicly really nailed down and available, but they offered grants to career and technical ed programs throughout Western North Carolina. And because, again, I believe in this work, it was something we were trying to work towards anyway. Prior to it becoming legislation, I thought, okay, we're gonna try to apply for this. So we were awarded the grant. through Dogwood, and the grant provides funding for 2 full-time career planning coaches, or it could be 4 half-time, but however you slice that. The positions will be responsible for creating these career development plans, now legislatively required, with the students. The career development plans will be created using a program we're currently using called Pathful Explore. And the career planning coaches will begin this work by working with the 9th graders, then the 10th graders, and then circling back to 8th, 7th, and 6th in that order to attempt to get the bulk of them as quickly as we can, get these all completed. And once these things are created, parents and students, counselors are going to be able to refer to them and talk to kids about them as they go. The term of this particular grant is 5 years, but as we have budgeted it, it will run out after 3. The funding will run out after 3, but that's okay because that is going to allow us to get the main bulk of this work completed and these processes created so that it will live on after the grant. The grant narrative, as I was saying, we wrote the grant prior to the law happening. And in so doing, I attached the positions to the high schools. Well, middle schools are involved in the legislation, so we're going to have to tweak it just slightly to include the entire catchment zone for each high school, basically. And so we are going to begin working on hiring these career planning coaches. Because the career planning coach, the function of these folks is really kind of has a foot in 2 worlds. One in my world, the CTE world, and then another in the counseling world. So Ms. Shannon Oughton and I will share the supervision of these folks. We'll be looking for a professional educator license with a preference for a career development coordinator or a school counselor. Obviously, the person's going to have really strong working knowledge of our career pathways and work-based learning opportunities that we have, strong communication with administrators, counselors, teachers, students, career development coordinators, Blue Ridge Community College, going to have to be a well-connected person, and we'll need a working understanding of the platform we're using, which is Pathful. We hope to hire those folks in January of 2024. And then what is success going to look like? I think that's an important piece of it for me. What's it going to look like if this works well? Well, first thing, we're going to be compliant with the law, right? That's the lowest bar, right? We're going to do that. And then this is a big one for me. We're going to have fewer dead-end pathways. And what do I mean by dead-end pathways? So all of the CTE courses are organized into pathways, and kids begin in a course, and then in theory, they matriculate through that course to complete the pathway. And this is something this is just my term, the dead-end pathway. It's when a kid starts a pathway but doesn't finish it. Now, in some cases, that might be because they started it and they're like, I don't like that. And that's fine. That is learning. That's moving in the right direction. But what I want to avoid is situations where we are kind of haphazardly choosing courses. So we want to look at it from the long view. We want to look at it starting in 6th grade, starting in 7th grade, and look at it and say, okay, if my career interest inventory says that I want to work in agribusiness, well then which courses do I need to connect myself to in 8th, 9th, and beyond? So that's kind of the concept. But for the seniors who graduated last year, we had, and there's some duplicated numbers here, so it's a little higher than it is students, but we had 2,720 dead-end pathways. So what that means is kids took one class in a pathway and said no, and that's fine. There are some of those that are going to do that. But my belief is that's more than we need, and we have kids who have wasted some time because we didn't plan well with them as they were entering. And so that's a huge part of what this is about. So fewer dead-end pathways, more completions of pathways, more work-based learning opportunities that are tied to the pathways they are completing. And then this is a biggie too. Over the course of the grant, we want to create the systems so that when the grant funding is gone, the processes continue on, because the legislation is not going to go away because the grant goes away. So we've got to create those processes. I like to think of it as we have to create a groove, basically, and then everything else will fall into that groove after that. And then this is huge and is a little bit intangible. Everything else I've been talking about, you can kind of hit with numbers. But when a sixth grader, seventh grader identifies a goal, then suddenly math class means something different than it did before. Science class means something different than it did before. So my hope is through this process, we're going to see a much more engaged populace of students as well, who know what their goals are and who have worked alongside a caring adult to help them get to the point of those goals. And as I said, we will attempt to hire these in January of 2024. And I believe it is going to be incredibly empowering for the kids as they begin to go through the processes. And it's going to be really enlightening for all of the adults to understand in a different way the opportunities that are available for our kids. Any questions that you guys have at this point?
Questions from the board?
Mr. Moore, are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
thinking about doing the 4 half-time or the 2 full-time, or are you just going to wait and see what the applicant pool?
I'm still trying to work that out. There are some possibilities for reorganization of some CTE positions as they are that could be really helpful that I'm trying to work through currently.
I knew we had something similar to that, but not every school. Okay.
Yeah, and the positions that you're talking about, the career development coordinators, those folks are split, they share schools, and they are focused almost entirely on the work-based learning stuff. So this will be a different function than what they have. So it's a little minutia to work through there, for
It's
sure.
good to have some playing room.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you
ma'am.
for seeking this grant.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the time.
All right, next up is going to be board chair observations. I'll hold off. Board member observations. Anyone from this side of the room?
Yeah, I have my notes. Can you
Good, sir. Anyone from this side of the room?
I just wanted to say a quick, how thankful I am that in this county, we really take Veterans Day seriously. And at all of our schools, they each had their own different way of celebrating, but every single school had such a beautiful event. And they really taught all of the kids what Veterans Day means. And it was just, I'm so thankful that in this county, we honor such an important holiday, and we really teach our kids what that means and how blessed we are to live in this country. So I just was blown away by how beautiful that was.
Oh, Dr. Rivers, please.
Okay. I just want to say that I enjoyed my school visit this past month or last week. We went to West Henderson High School, and as always, it's been a while since I've been in a high school, particularly West, and as always, it's a pleasure to go in and see our youngsters working diligently, their learning being facilitated by the teachers and not preached at or talked to, but it is truly a facilitation. It was exciting to see that, and it was also great to see that school, as old as it is, it was clean, well-kept, and I know that comes with a lot of hard work from a lot of people. But I enjoyed that school visit, and I want to echo what Alyssa said about our schools and their the presentation of all the programs that they had on Veterans Day. We are very blessed. to live in a community that honors our veterans and service to our country. And I also want to say, I know Sheriff Griffin is gone now, but it is true, we are truly blessed to have a sheriff's department that is committed to the safety and well-being of our children enough to fund SROs in every school. That is unheard of. And it shows a true commitment that we are in a community, and it does take a community to raise our children. And I just want to say thank you to him.
Yeah, so Veterans Day at Mills River was just amazing, and I can tell you I was just overcome with emotion. Could not stop crying. Once I started crying, I just gave myself over to it. It was a big puddle in the floor, and I'm so grateful for the invitation to have gone there and experienced that. There was, I can tell you, it touched me. Amazing. It was just amazing. Everybody should go to the elementary school somewhere and just participate, observe. And I'm thankful. I've got military in my family, and I'm so thankful that they're home. We only had some that were harmed but not killed. So there's a lot to be thankful for that. Bruce Drysdale, we had our school tour there, and I can tell you that this was the same day as Veterans Day, the celebration, and I was emotional wreck. And then I meet Mr. Joyce for the first time and have a school tour, and he's talking to me about one of the teachers, and I almost just, again, started crying, got tears in my eyes, because he was talking about a teacher that he had called, and he said, it's time to come home. And I went, wow. Who can pass that up? So it's just amazing how the connection is made. I'm so appreciative of these principals that are taking the huge role to connect, to help these children create value in their life and ownership of their school. That's huge when a child knows that they belong somewhere. There's not very much said about AM clubs, but I want to share that I had attended West Henderson High 7 a.m. or 7:15 club, and it's called the Sheepdog Club. Wow. That is amazing, and every school needs a club, needs a Sheepdog Club. And it's all about reaching other kids and the community in a positive way. So I just want to thank them. It's Jody Baker and Officer Jacobson, at West. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Caskey? Good. All right, moving on. Next, all right, we're going to split this up into two pieces, okay? We first have the public comments that are going to be related to the Parents' Bill of Rights. We are going to go through those first, and once those are done, then we will go on to our regular scheduled public comments. So as most of you know, that the Parent Bill of Rights, part of the law is that we had to have a public comment period prior to us adopting those policies. And so this month is for the public comment, with next month, if the board chooses to adopt the policies. So I think we have three that signed up for the Parent Bill of Rights, but I noticed one, Ms. Joan, Saniuk, I don't want to butcher your last name, mentioned that you wanted to talk about the Parent School of Rights, and so I put you under the Parents' Bill of Rights, okay? All right. So going first is going to be Mr. Joe Elliott. Okay. I'll handle it. I got it. Welcome, sir.
Excuse me.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Welcome.
I must confess that I am puzzled by the legislature's directive to local school boards to discuss the implementation of the Parents' Bill of Rights. It seems to me that the legislature should have first defined their own expected outcomes before they wrote SB 49. Wouldn't it have made more sense, for example, if our representatives in Raleigh, Senator Moffitt and Representatives Balcom and Johnson, joined us here to discuss with this board and the citizens of Henderson County their expected outcomes for the legislation? In truth, SB 49 has much political posturing and very little practical substance. Its grand design seems to invite endless discussion with no real means to reach constructive conclusions. I cannot imagine how teachers will find the time to actually teach subject area content, manage parent conferences, reconcile a multitude of parental demands while developing strategies to weave these diverse, often contradictory expectations into their classroom day. Teachers and administrators are offered very vague guidelines for governing resolution of these disputes. I view teachers as the ultimate multitaskers. They know how to blend compassion and hard-nosed expectations with maintaining discipline and focus. Yet, I fear catastrophic overload as teachers struggle to implement the new rules. Even a cursory review of SB 49 makes it abundantly clear that our legislators have no practical expertise relevant to the day-to-day work of teachers in schools. They do have expertise in the practice of insulting teachers and staff with almost meaningless pay raises, and more expertise in attacking legislatively LGBTQ kids whose only transgressions are the desire to be left alone to lead their own authentic lives. Much of SB 49 is pure political grandstanding. SB 49 is not about finding common ground for the diversity of beliefs among parents, teachers, and students in our schools. It is about foisting the rigid orthodoxy of the few on all other participants in our public schools. Senator Moffitt and Representatives Balcom and Johnson wrote this bill and voted for its passage. Now is the time for them to own SB 49 and share with us their vision for its implementation and performance oversight in our schools. That is exactly the way that good legislators interact with and take direction from the citizens they represent in Raleigh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have Alex Ramirez. Welcome, Mr. Ramirez. Sorry.
It's okay. It's difficult for some. Good afternoon. I'm a little sick. It's happening across all the schools, so thank you for giving me this time to speak. My name is Alex Ramirez, and I work in Henderson County Public Schools. And I wanted to share something about how this bill may negatively impact students. The bill is going to require more parental permission for any health concern given to a student. At the school I work at, we offer mass universal vision screening for our students for free. This is to help catch early on if a student has vision issues and may need glasses. Furthermore, once we have identified a student, we can then offer support to help families get those glasses. With this new bill, we are now going to need a permission slip for each student to get their eyes checked. I'm not sure if you have worked with kids before, but sometimes getting a permission slip back is the hardest thing to do, for several reasons. Students may lose the paper, parents may not want to sign something in a language they don't understand, family dynamics of a particular student or family, or students just simply forgetting. This is just going to be another barrier for helping students get a resource that they desperately need. This is the type of issue that comes up when we do opt-in schooling or opt-in options. Schools want to offer the best resource and education to students, such as free basic vision screening. If a guardian or parent wants another resource then that's offered at the school, then they should be able to opt out. I support parents and guardians being involved in the education of their students, but do not let the voices of only a few people affect the well-being of all of our students. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next up is Carol Cannon. Welcome, Ms. Cannon.
Good afternoon. And good afternoon. My name is Carol Cannon, and my husband and I are proud graduates of public schools, as are our children. And along with my parents, public school teachers nurtured and cared for me as I grew up. They ensured that the school was a safe place where I learned and developed not only academically, but socially and emotionally. And I believe everyone in this room today want school to be a place for the students of Henderson County to feel safe, loved, and seen as who they truly are. We want our children to develop into adults who can fully function and do well in the world of today and tomorrow. Now, when I was a child back in the 1960s, as far as I knew, my classmates were all raised in a standard two-parent household. Divorce was not mentioned. This is not the case for students today. They come from various family backgrounds. Therefore, I want teachers to have access to age-appropriate resources so they can openly and honestly address the reality children are experiencing in their homes. All of us may not agree with every family situation, but I think we can agree that each child should feel safe and accepted in the classroom, the lunchroom, and the playground. An example of a situation where materials such as I'm mentioning would be useful is when a first grade child makes a comment about her two mommies. Another student may be curious and say, don't they have a daddy? In such a circumstance, an age-appropriate book demonstrating differences in family structures could be helpful. It can include the stereotypical family of a mommy, daddy, 2 children, and a dog. A single-parent family. One where the child's parents are divorced and have shared custody. A multi-generational family. A family where a grandparent raises a child, and a family with 2 mommies or 2 daddies. Now, this resource would not directly address the issue of human sexuality, but acknowledges that children come from different backgrounds. I urge the school board to trust teachers and give them discretion in following the Parents' Bill of Rights. I want teachers to feel safe from reprisal as they seek the best way to honestly and respectfully teach and nurture students from various backgrounds. Please support our teachers in providing a space where every child feels safe, precious, and valued for who they truly are. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Ms. Joan. Welcome.
Thank you. I hope my time getting up here wasn't part of my 3
ma'am.
minutes. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm Reverend Joan Sanyuk. I'm a retired clergywoman. I'm also co-chair of PFLAG Hendersonville, a support organization for parents and friends of LGBTQ people. I have a pretty good life now. I've had 2, actually, successful careers. I have been married to a wonderful woman for almost 30 years. But several decades ago, I was a teenager who didn't quite fit in with expectations, didn't fit in with all the social expectations I had. And I was blessed because one of the teachers at my school and one of the teachers at a partner school got a bunch of us together and invited us to form a writing club. It functioned in a number of ways, helping us to express ourselves, helping us to find each other, and it was life-saving for more than a few of us. Some of us were LGBTQ, one of us was out, the others were not. That would happen later on. I have thoughts about SB 49, but I've expressed them to my legislators, and I won't take the time here for you. I know that you have to implement it. My hope is that given that there are still some kids who had the situations we had, including home life situations that were not safe, In my parents' generation, the drug of choice was alcohol. And several of us came from families where alcohol abuse meant they received abusive treatment. I hope that as you implement SB 49, that students will still be able to find trusted adults who are most easily found in the school setting, because everybody has to go to school. Trusted adults to whom they can talk about what's going on in their lives without it immediately getting back to a parent whose reaction could be traumatic to the child. That's what y'all get the big bucks for. Thank you for keeping that in mind.
Thank you. All right, that will conclude our public comments as it relates to Parents' Bill of Rights, unless there's someone else that would like to speak on Parents' Bill of Rights. You would like yours to go to Parent Bill of Rights? Perfect. Come on down, Ms. Gash.
Good afternoon, everyone. I thank you for giving us this forum, and that's really the main reason I'm here, because I do think it's important for teachers to come out and to speak on things like this here. And I do understand that there's only so much you can do, is my understanding, in terms of SB 49. What I just want to say here is that as we discuss the Parent Bill of Rights, I as a teacher would like to impress upon all of us the need to be kind and thoughtful and measured. We're to let our gentleness be evident to all, and to keep our words and attitudes and our actions courteous and exemplary for our students. I would like us not to allow the education of our precious youth to become another political football, where we draw hard lines and refuse to even listen to others. On a personal note, I am a teacher, and it is incredibly hard to be a teacher in this day and age. More and more, I find that our jobs, our careers that we have chosen are being deprofessionalized. And I would just hope that as we discuss and look at how this is implemented, that we bear the teacher in mind and just understand that we are already incredibly underpaid and overworked. And I will tell you that I have never felt the level of disrespect, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, that I have felt this year. And so that my prayer is that these Parent Bill of Rights discussions will not be used to further deprofessionalize or to further degrade this career through which I have chosen to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Parent Bill of Rights? All right, that public comment is closed. We'll now move on to our traditional public comments, and before we get going there, I'd like to remind everyone that is signed up to speak for a couple of things. Issues involving individual personnel or student matters, so in layman's terms, if you speak about a student specifically, Tom Smith, or a teacher specifically, it is not allowed. If there is a problem with a specific teacher, principal, we will take that to the superintendent or the associate superintendent, and they will take your concerns and they will hear them out. But here is not the forum to ostracize individual people. Understood? All right, with that said, Krista Cawley.
So I'm here today because there are a few parents that wanted to come to speak about some things that you did just address, but they don't know the process. So I'm here today to speak on behalf of my group, which is African American Parent Alliance, which is a group that I founded along with Indion Jackson. So I am standing in solidarity with parents and caregivers who have children in our school system that need an advocate, support, and a voice for their grievances and issues that are left unaddressed. I am also here today to address how AAPA, which is parent-led, would be beneficial to partner with all schools to have concerns regarding our African American students and minority students. I'd like to say that on February the 18th, 2023, at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Hendersonville, we had an educational workshop that was successfully led by me and Minister Deborah Shelton O'Geist. And thank you to the school board members that came to support the successful workshop. And we hope moving forward that this viable partnership can take place next year. Within the last 2 years, the group has been successful with advocating with parents to address grievances, and we are the group that many feel comfortable to come forward to. And the hope is to have, my hope is to have everyone on board with us. And what I want to see is success in the classroom and effective communication, trust, respect, and support with student and teacher relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carly. Next up, we have Chris Walters. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how are you? Good evening, everyone. This afternoon, I'd like to encourage you to become interested in the United Daughters of the Confederacy and how this group has influenced the teaching of history after the Civil War in our public schools. The United Daughters of the Confederacy was formed in Nashville in 1894 by descendants of the elite Southern families to preserve Confederate culture. As I've learned, this group shaped much of the favorable, sympathetic, and distorted view of the Confederacy that was taught in schools in the South for many years. Most of the monuments that are controversial today celebrating the Confederacy were sponsored by the United Daughters of the Confederacy, and they didn't go up right after the Civil War. They were erected decades later in large part to vindicate the Confederate cause and to elevate Confederate leaders in American history. And as the monuments were erected in critical times during civil rights struggles, they were used to blunt the emergence of civil rights activism. According to Robert P. Jones, the Confederate monument movement was primarily a means of making white territory and resisting black equality and empowerment. The defense of the Confederacy has generally been put under the label the myth of the lost cause. According to Jamar Tisby, the lost cause is a narrative about Southern society and the Confederate cause invented after the Civil War to make meaning of the devastating military defeat for Southern white Americans. The lost cause mythologized white pre-Civil South as a virtuous, patriotic group of tight-knit Christian communities. According to this narrative, the South wanted nothing more than to be left alone to preserve its idyllic civilization, but it was attacked by aggressive, godless Northerners who swooped in to disrupt a stable society and invited the intrusion of the federal government into small-town rural life. According to this false narrative, they didn't fight because of a desire to subjugate black people, but because outsiders had threatened their way of life and because honor demanded a reaction. The lost cause also promoted the view that slavery was not the root cause of the Civil War, that slavery was a benevolent institution that brought enslaved people many benefits, and that slaves were generally well cared for and happy. These and other pro-Confederate falsehoods are often strongly defended in the South today. And finally, according to a Vox, VOX, How Southern Socialites Rewrote Civil War History, the UDC actively influenced school curriculum and inserted its own approved textbooks into schools and policed schools for textbooks giving an unfavorable view of Southern history. The UDC used school children as the centerpiece of Confederate monument unveilings. The worst thing the UDC accomplished was to influence school curriculum to teach a romanticized and false version of the Southern Confederacy. My view is that a false history that has been actively taught has to be actively examined and corrected. I hope you examine the United Daughters of the Confederacy and its legacy and see what you think. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we have Joyce M. Yes, ma'am. He is.
In case you didn't see him, he wears our flag with all the honor. Thank you so much for letting me be here tonight. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone in this room. Everyone in this room is loved. And I can tell you that because I know who loves them. And I know that he is here today because he cares about our children. He cares about the teachers. He cares about the principals, the superintendents even. And so
Hard to believe.
it is, but praise God, he does. And I'm just thankful that I'm able to come here and tell you with my deepest heart that I know the answer to our problems. Well, actually, I guess I don't know. I know who does know. And I know that we kind of do things backwards from the outside in. And I think he wants to work from the inside out. And some of the people tonight, you know, that have been speaking, I sense that with you as well, that you want to speak from the inside out. And some of the programs are good and worthwhile, but they all cost money. And the one I'm talking about is free. It's child evangelism, it's the 7 something or other, and there's all kinds of stuff out there that, and you can't just go willy-nilly about it. You know, you just gotta ask him what he would like to see done. And he wants what we want. He said, "Forsake not the little children to come unto me." And he knows that we start with our little children. And they're not beautiful, wonderful little babies because they're born in sin. And I know it's not hard to teach a kid to be selfish, and it's not hard to teach a kid to grab it and say, "It's mine." But it is hard to teach them to love one another. It is hard to teach them that God has a special plan for them. So in these last few seconds, Father God, I just ask you to come into this room. I ask you to be able to put your hand of love upon every person here, because you died for each and every one of them. You didn't die for just me. You didn't die for just you or you or you. He died for all of us. And he loves us. And he wants the best for us. And he wants us to be able to love each other and to be able to reach through all this garbage. When I was teaching, the worst thing I had to deal with in public school was chewing gum. And Father God, we have come so far down. God, forgive us. Help us, Father God, to see what you want. Like Lincoln said, I think I can get this in 8 seconds, is they asked him if he wanted to be, if God was on his side, and Lincoln said, "Oh, I forbid not. I pray I'm on God's side." And that's what we want.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Jay Carey.
Can I ask that my wife Leslie goes before me, gives it more context of what I'm going to say?
Sure. Leslie Carey. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you all again. I'm Leslie Carey, and I thank you for being here and looking out for all of our students and the educators as well, especially here in Henderson County in our school district. I'm going to be reading on behalf of the father of a student that had been harassed by an educator but could not be here this evening. These are his words. I'm coming forth with safety concerns for children present at a Henderson County middle school and children that will come through such middle school. My child has only been there for half a year and has experienced a racial slur from someone who is supposed to be a leader and role model. My other major concern are more students that will experience this encounter and with this educator and those that have already encountered this educator. And these incidents have all been overlooked. I'm not going to stand for it. My children's mental and physical health are vulnerable, as are other children, to racial attacks when they're at school with them. This is the end of his statement. But additionally, this educator also told this child he would amount to nothing. And I don't think that's acceptable behavior, and I don't think that you think that this is acceptable behavior, especially when you were sharing stories of the schools cultivating such rich environments and wanting children to feel safe and be a part of a community. This is not going to make a child feel like it's part of a school community. So they are asking that this educator be removed for the safety of the children. Thank you.
Before you leave, I would ask that parent that's not here to seek out the superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, Mr. Jay Carey.
How y'all doing?
Great, how about yourself?
I am okay. So this is going along with what my wife had just talked about. Real quick, I was told as a sophomore in high school I'd amount to nothing by a teacher. I remember her name, or Mrs. Nelson. I remember exactly when she told me that. I'm a 20-plus year retired veteran, father of 4 amazing boys, and lucky enough to be married to my wife, Leslie. I'd like to think that I've had a positive impact on thousands of students, or people, not students, no students there, people in my lifetime. So, but it took me a long time to actually try to move past something like that. And it was, unfortunately, in a Catholic school, and there was nothing that was going to be done about that. One thing I want to see about this incident, incidents like these can be seen as a call to action for the board and an opportunity. Okay? We need to see a deliberate hiring of more Black teachers, Latina teachers, and other teachers from marginalized communities. It's a few things that can achieve, as you all well know. That can achieve positive role models for many students that they can identify with those teachers. I haven't looked at the statistics in the last year or so, but I know that the percentage of teachers within Henderson County that are non-white is much smaller than the student body that is non-white. So it's not representational. Another thing that it does is that it gives students a sense of security. They have confidants that they believe that they can turn to, and that they're not going to face these things such as racial slurs or these biased treatments. Another thing I think is that having more of these teachers from the marginalized community will help to discourage these cowards that use these words towards our children. Because please understand, people that use racial slurs are cowards. And that too will help those students to feel more secure. And seeing someone standing up for them would be amazing. And so I encourage you to take this opportunity. And my understanding is this is definitely not the first time, and unfortunately, it probably will not be the last time that something like this happens. But we can make positive steps. We did it when we lived in Austin, and Leslie was part of a school that they deliberately went and looked to hire more of those teachers that represented the student body. Much better. So I encourage you to take this opportunity, all of you, and take those steps necessary to make this happen, and to make our schools better, safer, and more inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Kendall Norman. Welcome, Ms. Norman. Afternoon to you.
As a mother of 3 children who have been through Henderson County or are currently in Henderson County system, I was deeply saddened by a discovery that an incident happened at a middle school in Henderson County regarding a racial slur at a student. As an educator myself, this discovery is alarming, unjustified, and uncalled for. As educators, it is our responsibility to provide a welcoming, nurturing, and inclusive environment for all, and for all to thrive academically. and as an administrator, it's important to manage diverse opinions, expertise to advise school visions and objectives while driving instructional excellence. I have a few questions that I want to leave you all for consideration. What message are we signaling our students of color, teachers of color, and the minority community by ignoring the spewing of racial slurs? A requirement for the position is participation in the supervision and evaluation of professional and classified personnel, in addition to building an environment that fosters collaboration and continuous improvement for all students. My final question is, there has been an increased conversation regarding facilitating a more diverse, inclusive learning atmosphere in Henderson County. And it's my understanding that administrators serve on hiring committees. I mean, personally, I would like teacher-student ratio to be more accurately represented in the student population. Is this board, sorry. I want the board to be confident in the liaisons, partnerships, and relationships with diverse organizations and community and cultures with their administration. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before you guys leave, we haven't heard, at least anybody on this board hasn't heard of anything that you guys are talking about. So I'm going to send Mr. Carl Taylor out here, and he's going to take you guys in the hallway, if you wish, and learn more about this incident. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. All right, that's the end of our public comment portion of tonight. Next up, we have consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve consent as presented.
I move we approve the consent agenda as written.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, old business. This is going to be low-performing schools. Mr. Mark Garrett.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is a follow-up to what we shared at the October meeting and part of a 3-meeting series of approval processes to submit our low-performing schools plans. Just to give a little bit of a refresher, these are the requirements that we have to have. First one is that they shall be identified low-performing under the general statute. The following actions shall be taken, and we're going to talk through those 4 separate actions today. 1, the superintendent shall proceed within 30 days of the initial identification to make one of the 4 recommendations for the administrators at each of the schools identified as low-performing. 1 is to recommend a retainment. 2 is to recommend retainment with a plan of remediation. 3, to recommend the local board that the principal be transferred or proceed under general statute to dismiss or demote the principal. This is what we covered as a personnel item in closed session and that you just approved through your process moments ago. We obviously are working with all of the schools that are on that list, all 6 of them, and you'll see that evidenced here in the following slides. So this next step is within 30 days, we submit to you a preliminary plan for improving both the school performance grade and school growth score, because we get 2 grades here. You have the growth and the overall performance. It's an 80-20 mix. The performance is an 80, and the growth is a 20%. So those plans are now available not just for your review, but also public review. And these are the 6 schools: Apple Valley Middle School, Dana Elementary School, Edneyville Elementary School, Flat Rock Middle School, Hillendale Elementary School, and Upward Elementary School. Also, there is a form linked there that we have on our website right now that allows not only for parental comment, but public comment in general. So all they have to do is make that input, and we will review it before we come to you with the final plan in December. Parent notification continues to happen, so that is one of those requirements that is taking place right now at each of those 6 schools. Step 3, within 30 days, the local board shall vote to approve, modify, or reject this plan. So final approval will be requested at the December board meeting. And the final step is that we shall submit the plan to the state board within 5 days of your approval. So the final plan will be submitted to DPI following the approval by the board at the December meeting. That is the process. Wanted to let you know where we are. Again, for the public and anyone watching, right here is the spot that you can go in and review those 6 plans, and also a form for community input. We want to be as transparent as we can through this process, and we want to get the input of our stakeholders throughout this process. So are there any questions at this time?
No, and we'll go over for the public school improvement plans here shortly as well.
Yes, so the school improvement plans are separate, but really all inclusive of those 6 schools serving a dual purpose. Yes, sir.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is kind of a discussion that I brought up, which was the flex calendar, which pertains to 2 of our 23 schools, which are Bruce Drysdale and Harrisville Elementary. The discussion that I brought up, and I had talked to folks about, is that if you live in the Bruce Drysdale district, because Hendersonville Elementary School is not districted, which is another thing. But Bruce Drysdale only has one option, which is the year-round option, which becomes pretty difficult for families. I think it's awesome. It was great when I had kids going through it until we got to middle school and high school when they're on completely different calendars. And so we want to be able to offer our parents an option if they so choose for a traditional calendar, so maybe they can have their kids on the same calendar. So Mr. Garrett has a interesting idea on how we can achieve this, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Interesting is always a loaded word. The first thing that we did is we took our current feeder zones and kind of overlaid our bus routes to see where our bus routes were running. The other thing that we did is we ran a little scan of our student data system to see how many families we're actually talking about who currently have a student on the flex schedule and also on traditional, either by having an elementary and middle and high schooler. There are 70 in the district. So I wasn't sure what number I expected, but what we found was in the 70 range. What we are doing is we've worked with Ms. Shelley Brown, and I've got to give Mr. Taylor the credit for kind of spearheading this on that side of it. But we talked as a group, and I asked the question, could we take our current bus routes and make it where it would be an option then for families to opt in by running buses from some current schools that have space into some of the city-zoned areas, Bruce Drysdale zone, so that you're not having to disrupt 2 calendars or 1 calendar wholesale, because that always makes people nervous. And I don't know that y'all knew that as a board, that when you talk about calendars, it makes people nervous. And when I say people, I mean everybody gets nervous. So in doing this, I had a little experience in a district that ran 2 zones as one, and geographically it worked out advantageous to do that. And I also was principal of a school to where we had some districts cross, and we would do these bus transfers or some different things because we were in the mountains and we were so far away from town. So we are looking right now actively to see what cost it would take in order to extend some bus routes from, let's say, for example, Clear Creek or Sugarloaf down to that side of the Bruce Drysdale zone, from Etowah, which comes all the way up into a Laurel Park area, to extend that in, and then maybe even looking at Atkinson, or again, where space will be available to extend those. What you do there is you don't want to add bus routes because that hurts our efficiency and our funding for the transportation formula. If you ever want a really boring conversation about that, get a hold of me and I'll explain that funding formula to you, because it's, I I think Ponzi scheme comes to mind, but don't quote me. And Mr. Campbell, you're laughing because you know it's true. But so that is what we are actively doing right now, figuring out, trying to look for that win-win situation for if you have some families who really have that need and want to opt in to the traditional calendar by doing that in the feeder zone that would be closest to them through transportation. One of the other options that we are looking at, it's not the desirable option right now, because I think it would be a little bit more expensive, would be then to take your middle school and use it as a transfer station. So all of your buses that feed Hendersonville Middle could come in, and could you do a transfer station? We're a little, like to get out to Etowah, to get up to some of those other things, I think it would add some cost, but we hope to be able to bring you something very soon that shows these are the routes that could be extended, that folks would opt in. We've got some stops that are already very advantageous to do that, or, you know, have some parking lots that are available, some different things like that. But that is what Ms. Brown is working on right now. And I hope that is certainly something that feels a little bit like progress to you, Mr. Craven, and also to the board as we seek to really find a way for those families that really need that option to have it, and transportation not be a barrier.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. We have a community that oftentimes gets forgotten, oftentimes has things to say, but they might not be able to come to this meeting or be able to advocate in a manner that others are. And I know and have heard of the hardships of when you have kids on separate schedules, right? And a lot of it boils down to care. And, you know, you don't want to have elementary age kids, if you can help it, not, you know, taking care of themselves or their younger siblings or so on and so forth, because they're on a separate schedule than big brother who's at the high school or big sister at the middle school or whatever. And so as long as we can give options, I love options. And this will allow us to have some options to see how many parents want to take advantage of it. I think one of the biggest things, you know, we've identified 70 families right now. Eventually there might be a couple more, and I'm sure that's going to fluctuate year by year depending on who goes to middle school and who graduates or whatever. I think that we need to make sure that we're allowing our community to know about this, especially the community at the Boys and Girls Club, that are going to be the vast majority of the folks that are going to Bruce Drysdale there, districted-wise. So as long as we are getting this information out to the community, letting parents know that this is an option if they so choose, options are good.
If I may add, sir, we would absolutely make sure that we, once we settled on a plan that we feel like would be workable and advantageous, we would certainly seek those families out that are dually enrolled in a manner of speaking in 2 calendars, and also take time to work with our partners at the Boys and Girls Club, some of the other folks in the community that this obviously impacts as far as the child care and family situation. So this is not a final decision, nor is it a recommendation at this point. We will have that shortly, hopefully, but it will be very clear, and then we will take ample time to communicate that with families so that folks know this would be an opt-in or an option to take advantage of, should that work best for your family situation.
Awesome. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I have one.
Uh-oh.
I was sitting at the agenda meeting, or the planning, and you brought this up, Mr. Chair, and I was just like, oh my gosh, are we talking about changing the calendars of, seems like we always, but I want to thank you for bringing this up and for thinking of all the students and making sure they have all the choices. And to our superintendent, I didn't know an answer. I was like, how are you going to do this? We're going to end up making half the people mad, half the people happy that we're going to change calendars and change school. You came up with something that can solve the problem and be financially doable. My only problem is I didn't think of either. But thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I think that's great to give people choices, and it's all about, what do you say? It's all about the student need and, want to finish it?
Student need over adult convenience. And we say that all the time around here, and we try to live by that. And you have just put a lot of pressure on me to make sure this plan works. And I appreciate that, Mr. Egoff.
Thank you, Mr. Egoff. Appreciate that. Anybody else on this? All right, moving on. Dr. Shannon Marlowe is going to present us with our school improvement plans. Welcome.
Your yearly excitement.
Yeah.
All right. So each year we bring school improvement plans. Schools have been working on them since the summer, but they have some key pieces of data that they like to wait around for in the fall, namely their student outcome data, which oddly enough from last year typically comes in the fall. So once they have that information, they're really able to nail down not only what they want their goals to be for this year, but what their goals need to be for this year, and then structure those around action steps that they can then create. For the third or fourth year now, I think it's third year, all of our plans are in the NC Star IndaStar platform. That is provided at no cost to us by the state. So it's an online platform that actually anyone can access. You just have to have a guest login and password. Those can be found on our website. So if you go to our website and you're looking under the district page for Henderson County, under About Us, there's a link at the bottom for school improvement plans. It will take you to a page that has a guest login for every school's school improvement plan. And as Mr. Garrett mentioned, right now, the schools that are designated low performing, there is a special header at the top for those and a form to be able to provide feedback on those plans specifically. The other piece that we like about this is it turns school improvement plans into actual continuous improvement plans. So schools revisit their plans every month. If something improves more quickly than they thought it would, then they're able to change those on the fly by adjusting dates or adjusting action steps. And if something seems to be taking a little bit longer and they find they need to scaffold a bit more, they have the ability to do that as well. And again, it provides transparency because anyone can access the plan, see what their schools are working on. And so I provided last week PDF copies for you, as well as those guest login pages so that you could look through all of our plans. What you would be approving are the plans for this school year, but just know that they are fluid and they will change based on the needs of the school. And that's the part we love about them, because they do review them every single month as they have their school improvement meetings so that they can make sure they are up to date with what the needs of the school, the students, and the teachers are.
One additional piece to share that Dr. Marley's done a great job with this is there's members of the instructional team too that are designated as school improvement plan partners for these schools. So there is a component of support from this building like I've never seen before, which I'm very grateful for Dr. Marlowe's leadership into making those connections. For those of you that have done school improvement plans back in the day, there was 2 copies. One was in the principal's office, one was in the media center, and you looked at them every 5th year when you had to redo them, or then they got to where you had to do them every other year. This is not that school improvement plan. I'm so proud of the work that I see going on because they revisit these monthly in their school improvement teams, and they are very organic and mobile, and that's what's really, really good about it. So thank you, Dr. Marlowe.
You're welcome. Thanks to my team for they provide coaching access every month, coaching comments to schools as well. So amazing team.
And I do like that it's kind of transitioned to the NC Star type of model and the website access, because these things, they were 60, 70 pages each. And a lot of times, like you said, you do them because you have to do them, and then it gets thrown to the bottom drawer. I like living documents. I like working documents, and that's exactly what all of these are. And as soon as we approve this, if the board chooses to approve this today, every parent should be able to have access to that within...
They have access now.
Well, they have access now. There you go. You can go on the link and you can see your school, any other school. Look at there's videos, there's the action plan itself. It's great.
Can you please clarify for me, you said the 6 low-performing schools, we've got to approve those next board meeting.
That is true. You basically are providing a plan that stands as it is right now, but once we find out if there's any additional feedback, they will actually submit to the state their plan. So within that platform, there's actually a submit button that those schools will be required. In addition, our schools that are designated targeted school improvement, they also do a submission. But you're basically giving approval to the living document as it stands.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this? All right, I'll take a motion if you're ready.
I will. I move that the Henderson County Board of Education approve the 2023-24 school improvement plan as proposed.
Is there a second? Second, Mr. Egoff. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Mr. Bernie Sosha with the initial budget.
July 1st, right?
It's July 1st.
All right, I thought it was. Got my DeLorean out back, we're all set.
Boy. That's finance guys do have jokes. He's been waiting for hours waiting for that. It was.
It was passed in July, but I just wanted to wait so I could use it.
You're right, exactly, yeah.
Yes, it is the initial budget present to you. As you have it in front of you, there is $172,422,690 in the initial budget. Most of the state budget is in there. There are still some pieces because, as we've mentioned before, there's a whole lot of layers to this budget, and they've only given us, they've given us most of it, but there are still some pieces that they have not yet unfolded as to how it's going to come out, but that 91 million is what we have so far that we've been allotted. The big piece that you guys want to, get into is that local piece of the budget that we talked about in the spring with our budget workshop and everything. And so where that has landed at this point is an increase of $2.6 million from what we were looking at in the spring. And I'll tell you, right off the bat, the first $800,000 of that is $300,000 for the fence at East and $500,000 of local dollars from fund balance for the CEP program in child nutrition. So that's the first $800,000 of that $2.6 million. The other $1.8 is the increases to the salary and benefits came out of the state budget, increases to our charter school expenses, and for the utilities and insurance. Those are the big pieces that changed. Everything else has kind of been a shift within to try to make ends meet within what we have. So we got 1.5 million from the county, and the remainder of that is coming out of an increase to fund balance. But we asked for 1.7, we needed 1.8, so it actually was just that $300,000 gap.
What was the 300,000 that you had mentioned before the child nutrition?
The fence at East.
The fence, okay. Well, I know we are short on our ask, and first of all, how you guys come up with a budget when the state sometimes take years to come up with a budget, and then like this budget, we retroactively pay people back for the raises that they deserved in July at the end of this month, and calculating 1,800 employees is commendable, to say the least. To Kelda. You do a great job too. But the $500,000 that we have earmarked for the child nutrition is a no-brainer to me. I have not heard of a better dollar being spent since I've been on this board from every parent that's out there. So even though we're going to dip into our fund balance, that is a reason to dip into your fund balance, in my personal opinion. 170, what was it, 170, 422,690 is a big budget.
It is a very large budget, yes, sir.
172 million. All right, questions? for Bernie on any of this right now. As said, we'll get into our adopting the budget for the following year here pretty soon. This is, yeah. This is the budget we've already actually approved, but we have to reapprove since they actually said, here's your money. Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns?
This is pretty quick from what I'm used to.
Yeah, well, we had already approved the budget previously, right?
Well, you've approved the preliminary budget.
Preliminary budget.
Yeah, which we now have real numbers to put to.
Well, yeah, but I was talking about it. It took years.
It took 2 years.
From what I'm used to.
Yeah, we had 2 years there where we didn't have a budget at all.
Yeah.
Yes, that's when they just did line item.
Continuation budgets and then line item increases. This is better.
Pretty good.
Not even Thanksgiving.
Uh-huh.
All right. Questions?
I think it's also important to note that even though it's not Thanksgiving, we will be working on our local budget and the preliminary pieces of that in January.
Yeah.
And that will be
For 24, 25.
quickly
Yeah.
approaching.
All right, so if there are no other questions for Bernie, I'll take a motion to approve this initial budget resolution.
I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve the initial budget resolution for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are you, oh, man, you're here for a while.
Ready.
ESSER 3 projects.
ESSER 3.
Yeah, I need a new joke, though.
Oh, man, I don't know, this is COVID, there's not much to joke. It's hard to joke about
There you
COVID
go.
money.
That's the joke in and of itself. There we go.
Well, I can say good news about the information I'm about to share with you is that at the beginning of this meeting, we were notified that DPI actually approved our budget application, which includes these initiatives tentatively pending your approval as well.
Awesome.
But we have to go through them before we can do anything.
Okay.
So what we have is sort of a plan that you guys had talked about asking for, to how we were going to spend out the remaining ESSER dollars that we have. So what we presented here are these identified projects for you. I'll just go down through them. We had the smallest one on there, but one of our, probably the most important one that we have is a signing bonus and some extra pay for our bus mechanics. We've got 3 vacancies. Got 115 buses, yellow buses out there that we need to transport our kids to and from school. So we are just using some of this ESSER money to try to provide a little incentive so we can get some new mechanics in here to the bus garage to help out the ones that are working extremely hard to keep our bus fleet moving.
So $1,500 for each new mechanic that's hired that has not been employed with HCPS.
Yes, it will look just like what we do for our teacher signing bonus.
And then do they get it like 6 months after being here, or how long? What is
That's
that?
what we would start out with the initial payment like we do with the teachers at the beginning of the year, and then 6 months or August is our last point. So by August, they would have to get their
Okay,
second part of that.
works for me.
Biggest ticket item on here, air conditioning in the 3 remaining gyms, high school gyms that do not have air conditioning. This number is sort of, it's an educated estimate for what it will cost, is for the information that we can provide, as well as finishing out our ESSER budget.
Okay.
So this is, that is where we are on this one. They have tried to come up with the best estimate without getting an engineer involved to design
So how'd you get
actual.
this estimate?
This is something that Chad and Martin have been working through local companies to get information about what, based on the square footage of the gyms, what size of equipment would be required, and there's, again, a couple different design ideas as to what they could do to make the infrastructure work already that we have.
So they're confident that 2.25 is going to get it done for all 3.
They are largely confident.
Largely confident.
That number actually was originally lower than that, but we still had the extra dollars left in ESSER, so we went with everything that was left in there.
So you're overestimating.
Yeah, so the thing that I have with this, and then, you know, we can get into these, the other programs that I think are, well, one, we have to spend money on, is when we're spending these ESSER dollars, these need to be ESSER dollars, right? I hope that you guys don't come back to the board and say we're over by $500,000, and we need your approval to either get rid of some paving or roofs or whatever that we're going to do for next year's capital, or I want to dip into another $500,000 out of the fund balance, because to me, spending money out of fund balance is clearly more important to spend on the child nutrition, number one, before we do anything else. So I hope that this number is really accurate.
Yes, there is not an intent from us to be coming with an ask to come up with additional dollars for this. If something were to change on that front, that would be the first conversation.
You're going to value engineer it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Something that came out of the board workshop this spring, for the remaining 12 gyms that do not have either fans or would be involved in the HVAC, would be to provide large ceiling fans in those spaces, to provide a little bit more airflow in the gyms, to try to make them a little more comfortable for folks. Much smaller number for that to come in. And those, we actually know how much those cost individually, so that number is what that is, to get 12 additional gyms in there. I'm gonna skip the next one for a second and go down to the esports. We already have a team over at North Henderson. It's been very successful.
And West.
And West has their club going. And so this would provide setup costs so that we could get all of our high schools involved in the esports. It would provide a full setup for a team at each of 5 sites that we have right now, tweaking exactly what those devices would actually be. We're looking at whether it's a computer or it's a console type of a setup, but those are the details that would be worked out later. But this would be to get that set up for 5 different high school teams. And I'm going to turn the next elementary reading
I'm going to
program.
say something real quick about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
And esports to me is one of those things like band, regular sports, drama, theater, whatever is that hook for you to come to school and to be present and to be there every day. I don't understand esports, but I don't think I'm supposed to, which is perfectly fine. But I think it's important to know that we need to have those hooks for kids to come and be a part of and enjoy coming to school. And when we were at West the other day for our school visit, there were signs up everywhere about join the esports club, and they were doing it after school and the dates and the times, and it's growing. What this seed money essentially will do is allow us to build out those computers that they use, which are extremely expensive because they're very, very high memory, high RAM, gig gaming computers. So do you know how many computers you're going to be able to get for each school for $170,000?
So depending on exactly what we end up doing, if we go with the computer model, what would be, we're probably looking at like 5 actual setups of computers going in there, and then there's other gaming systems that would be used, and the screen set up, and the nice chairs, and get the whole thing. And I'll say, you know, having kids that are touring colleges, that's one of the things that the colleges are pointing out now, is they have facilities in the universities for students to come and do esports in college now, and to give our students an opportunity ahead of time that they could take advantage of that when they get to
I think it's great.
For those that don't know, can you quickly explain what esports is?
Esports is basically playing video games.
That's
and so it's a team model of playing various games. There are various online platforms, Twitch and whatever, that kids are using now to actually, I don't know. My kids like watch people play video games, which is kind of what Twitch is, or watch somebody make I don't even know what they're making, right? So I'll watch it, but Minecraft or whatever the case may be. So they'll put these teams together to compete against other teams across the world. And sometimes when you get into the professional side of it, it's very, very, very lucrative. But my point is this. I never was in the band, but I think it's super important that we spend money every single year on band and making sure that we have equipment for folks. I'm not too big into video games, but there are a lot of kids that are right now. I did play sports. That was my hook in school, and I think the more hooks that we can find, the better off that public school is going to be.
I will say, from the game perspective, we're talking about something like Mario Kart, Super Smash Brothers. We're not
Ooh, I could
talking
play
Call of
Mario
Duty. We're-
Kart.
I was just gonna say, as
that-
long as there's an adult
yes,
to make
that-
sure
that's
that
one of
we're
the questions that often
playing
comes up is
Yeah.
what type of
approved
games are
games.
they playing?
Don't teachers sponsor it or something? How does that work?
Yes, they have teachers that will sponsor it at each of the schools.
And am I correct in assuming, or did I just think this up, that there's scholarships?
Oh, there are definitely scholarships.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is huge. Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
I had a technology director show me 4 years ago. It was 11:30 on a Wednesday. He pulls up Twitch and he showed me how many viewers this one person had watching him play Minecraft. And it was in the hundreds of thousands in the middle of a day. And he monetized that. And I said, you know, I really don't understand this. And he put it to me better than anybody ever has. He says, do you watch NFL football on Sundays? I said, I do. He said, have you ever played in the NFL? I go, absolutely not. So that's where the spectator piece comes in. My son, when we allow him to, and we sit and watch, he gets on YouTube to hit these tutorials for how to build things in Minecraft. And then he turns around and says, look at this, whatever. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how did you do that? Well, it's the tutorials that they make. So this is a growing, burgeoning industry. Our idea is that we have a ready-made conference right here in our own county by having 5 sites. And then that can also extrapolate out to some regional competitions and some state competitions. Actually, the NCHSAA has a kind of preferred partner that is starting to sponsor some events as well that I think North Henderson may have participated in a couple of those competitions at this point. So it's one of those things that we're stepping out on faith because it's not something that we understand. It's not you know, I tell people all the time, I have a high school diploma and I've had a high school experience. This is their experience. And I think this is just one of those steps toward that. The other one is the $850,000 for the elementary reading program. And I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Marlowe to get it.
We are looking at adopting a reading program for our elementary schools, so that would be K-5. We're in the middle right now we're actually not in the middle, we're almost done with a pilot. We've been looking very specifically over the last year at 2 programs that fit our needs, and our teachers are in the process of completing rubrics so that we can come to a decision about that. And once we've adopted a program, then we will use those funds to purchase the program, the materials, and the professional development that is needed to implement in the spring, beginning in the spring and into next school year.
Questions? All right, I'll take a motion. Anybody? No?
Where's it at?
Oh, there is no motion on there. We don't need a motion for this, do we?
This is more for, we just need your approval to proceed.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that you're not against any of this piece moving forward. But we would love a motion if you would like to do one.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the final ESSER 3 projects as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, last one.
right,
Contracts,
last one.
purchases. Well, actually, you have one more after that too, but
Yeah,
it's going to be a little bit later.
Got a $90,000 plus contract for your approval. It's for Cross-Nor Communities for Children. And the primary reason that you get to talk about it this evening is because what we've done is made it into a 19-month contract so we can finish it up with the fiscal year instead of being in the middle of the year, which is the way it's been since we started with Cross-Nor years ago. This is for them to provide mental health services for us. We've been using them for a long time, but we went out and put an RFP out that I've attached the information there. We got the responses, and they will charge us $5,000 a month to do this, which takes it to the $95,000. So we're continuing the exact same service that we've been getting them, and they're not even raising the prices on us.
Questions on this contract or what this is about?
I'm trying to find the page, and I can't remember the page, but do I specifically remember that this is not in every school in Henderson County?
This isn't so much in the school as a service for the students to go to use.
Right.
And then we also partner up, we have other agencies that are coming into the schools, like Blue Ridge Health in town. We already have an MOU with them, and they serve other students in some of our schools in addition, so that we can reach all.
They're all covered.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Any other questions on this contract? Okay. I am going to recuse myself from this vote. As I noticed on the very last page, my wife is listed as a reference. It's not her correct where she works anymore, or any information correct, but her name is still on there. So I'm going to recuse myself from this vote, but I'll still ask for board action. Would anyone like to approve this motion?
Yeah, I move that the Henderson County Board of Public Education approve execution of a contract with the listed vendor as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. And just please note I recuse myself, Mr. Campbell. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, capital update, Mr. Carl Taylor.
Good evening, board members. I hope you're doing well today. For this month's capital update, again, we will start with our projects that are being managed by the school system. And so since last month, 3 of the projects have been completed. The first one being an HVAC unit replacement there at the office of Bruce Drysdale Elementary School. The replacement of the intercom was completed at last month's meeting, but since then, the classroom phones, the VoIP system, has been installed and is up and running at Fletcher Elementary. The perimeter fence at East Henderson is completed in terms of the perimeter. There's a little bit of touch-up work that we'll need to do around the stadium as a result of the project, so we'll get that squared away soon. But again, the perimeter fence, the gates have all been put up and installed as part of that contract that was approved. And then the final one is our playground updates at our elementary schools, and that continues to be in progress. In terms of that project, the delivery has been completed at all 13 of our schools. We have installation currently in progress at 4 of the schools. 7 of them are completed, that being Bruce Drysdale, Etowah, Fletcher, Hendersonville Elementary, Hillendale, Mills River, and Upward. So since last month, Hillendale and Mills River were completed. Last month's pictures were incomplete projects in progress, but you can see there at Hillendale, we have some happy kids out playing there. They had a big ribbon cutting ceremony that was pretty spectacular, and then you can see the Mills River one finished as well. Edneyville Elementary is pretty much completed. They're just waiting on the mulch to be installed and then to have our playground inspector maintenance go out there and check everything out and approve it so that the kids can get on that one. Fletcher Elementary is complete, so you can see there's some happy kids enjoying that new playground. And then 2 other ones that are currently under construction are at Atkinson Elementary and Glen Marlowe Elementary. So those should be wrapped up here pretty soon, hopefully maybe by the end of the week if we're lucky. Moving on to the MRTS projects through the county. The HVAC replacement at Atkinson continues to be in the engineering phase. The roof replacement and gutter downspout replacement projects, those bids were awarded since our last meeting. Those were awarded to Bonnets Incorporated, and so they've done work for us in the past. And so we look forward to continuing to work with them in this upcoming year with those projects. The secure entry and cafeteria expansion at Upward Elementary, the secure entry is under construction and is making great progress. The cafeteria part of that project, we continue to wait on the construction documents to be completed. And then for West Henderson, the construction documents were completed by LS3P and turned into Carolina Specialties, which then allowed them last week to have a pre-bid meeting for the various trades that will be a part of that project. And so that opens up the bid phase to where those, I believe it's a 2-week window for those bids to be turned in, and then that'll continue the process for that project where then it can get underway. So here are just some quick pictures from Upward Elementary. The one on the left is when you would walk into that vestibule area. The door to the left is the one that would go into that new lobby area for the front office. And so that door will be a secure door to where people have to get buzzed into that space. The doors that then enter into the building itself, those will be locked and closed at all times. To the right is from that new lobby area. The door to the left is the one that you get buzzed into the building once you're approved by the front desk person. And again, the one to the right is the one that you get buzzed in from the vestibule area. From that new lobby area, you can see where the window is cut in. That window has since been installed since I took this picture, but that's where the front desk person will be on the other side of that window. So when a visitor comes into that space, she will be able to open it up to have dialogue or to exchange items as need be. Then to the right is the secure barrier that Vinoy put up while they do the construction. So all the construction is inside of that closed space. That keeps all of our students, staff, and visitors currently from entering into that construction area. For West Henderson, we did receive some renderings for that project that I can share with you tonight. These first photos show what the new building entry and drop-off area will look like. And so the one to the left where you can see the W up on the top of that canopy, if you look to the right, that's the current front space of that building and that awning that runs along the very front of that building. And so this entry point really is coming from the bus parking lot is what this view is of. A couple of other photos. Again, this is of that new front entry, and then you can see along the side, that screen wall is what will separate that courtyard space that is in between the front office area and the entrance into the cafeteria. So to create, again, that secure space for students. The picture to the right is what the new entry lobby will look like. Here is the front office rendering, so coming in from that front lobby. And then again, to the right is what the other side of that screen wall will look like. So that's the walkway, again, leading from the new office area up to the cafeteria and gymnasium area. So again, keeping that courtyard and students during the school day in that secure space. These photos go to the back side of the building. Currently, between X building and the gymnasium is just an open breezeway. And so you can see here that will be connected now with those doors, and then also a walkway that spans the entire length of the gymnasium. If you enter in through those doors, then this next rendering shows that lobby area. So those doors that you see on the back side of that photo, that's going into the X building or the vocational building. And then also you can see the ramp that would lead up to it. Those 4 doors that you can see as well, those are single user restrooms that are currently in the project. All right, so at this time, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Questions? Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
It is very exciting. You were right about that.
All right, Mr. Sosha. You got a new joke now, right? Had some time.
I've had a lot of time. Well, I've been busy. I've been spending the money you just approved in the last 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, all week.
Okay. Local current expense and other restricted funds as of October 31. So far to year to date, we have received $14,117,000, and we have spent $9,942,000. And we are in November, so we are very actively in the first part of the local supplement for our staff. So they'll be getting that in about 2 weeks' time, which is always very nicely received right before Thanksgiving holiday. And just putting out there, the increases I mentioned that from last year are in the charter schools and the system-wide support services and the salaries that we talked about a few minutes ago. The other is for the enterprise fund as of September 30th. Child nutrition program has received revenues of $1,521,000 and expenditures of $1,725,000. And again, following through with what we were talking about before, the deficit we're running in that program is due to the CEP program being offered to the students, where some of that's coming out of their fund balance and some of that is coming out of the district-wide fund balance. The child care program for the first quarter has revenues of $227,130 and expenditures of $1,583,151 because, as you just saw, we have some playgrounds in the schools. So,
And we bagged that revenue last year.
yes, that money is already in the bank money that we're spending. So we're paying for that one out of their fund balance right now because we got the money last year. And part of it, the grant money that they have, that I mentioned here, there was $106,000 in bonuses for the staff in the first quarter as well that came out of the grant money that they received. And in both situations, as we're offering those programs, we are keeping an eye on their revenues and expenditures this year, knowing that next year is going to be, a very different year without having all of the ESSER and the stabilization grant dollars available to us.
I got a question, then I got a statement.
Yep.
First, going to be a question on the child nutrition program. $204,000 is a deficit running for the first 3 months of the fiscal year. Do you see that leveling off now that we know more about how many kids we're serving breakfast and lunch every day?
It seems to have leveled off. The first month, the participation was down, so it was a larger deficit at the beginning. It was a smaller deficit in that second and third month, even after what we have reported on here. We're meeting with Robert tomorrow to look at that again to see where we are currently, but that's kind of where we are. The amount of deficit each month seems to have shrunk.
Good.
And seems to be stabilized.
And is that with an increased usage or increased amount of kids having school lunch and school breakfast?
It's getting the most kids in to get the most of the dollars out of the USDA reimbursements that we can get.
Do we know those numbers this month, like how much we're doing?
I have not had a recent update, but they've leveled off right around the 8,000 mark.
8,000,
which is
13,000,
which is the 7,000 to 8,000 mark is higher than you've been even pre-pandemic. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Awesome. And then the last question that I have, you mentioned the charter schools. Can you talk a little bit about that charter school tax that we have to pay?
Sure. So we're pushing 6% of the students in Henderson County attending charter schools. So it's about that amount of money of the local county appropriation, any ABC money, any fines and forfeitures that we get. That is calculated on a monthly basis for a per pupil amount of money, and that goes to each of the charter schools. I said it's about 6% of the local dollars that come to us that we're sharing with them. Part of the increase that we saw is, well, one, in the budget that just passed, they've changed some things to us a little bit with the virtual charter. The virtual charter used to have a set dollar amount that we were paying, a much smaller dollar amount, but now we treat them just like every other charter school, and they're getting the full per pupil allocation of our local dollars. So now that that's sort of an after-the-fact thing, we weren't planning on that, so that's going to cost us $40,000 to $50,000 more this year than we had anticipated to the charter schools for just the virtual charters. The other part, I don't think they get the full state allotment because they have their own formulas that they calculate for them in each of the areas that they don't have, yes.
Right, they have to maintain all that overhead that they don't have.
Yeah, the other one is Fernleaf opened up, and we had anticipated an additional 50 students being there, and they had an additional 100 students there. So that was, I guess, because they opened up the high school building, and then that freed up additional space for them. So they have enrolled more kids than were originally projected. So that was the other piece in that one.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, and finally, general operations. Mr. Garrett.
Well, it is November, and November, I have learned in my career, is make sure you know what you're doing if we have snow. So I just wanted to remind folks of our winter weather procedures. We are working with our new transportation director now, Ms. Shelley Brown, and we've sat down to talk about what our winter weather procedures will look like and how we're going to make sure we can canvass the very diverse topography of the county, should we have winter weather. We did not have any last year. That did not hurt my feelings. A lot of people were very upset that we did not have any. So for everybody's sake, I do hope we get a good snow this year. And if we have a good snow, we're going to let kids play, and then we're going to get back to work. But what we will try to do is make sure that when we make those calls, that we communicate them as early as we feel like we safely can. We will not operate necessarily just on a forecast, but on some intel that we have internally and working with our external partners, some of which were here tonight. Also, just want to really appreciate Jimmy Brissy and his communication through the emergency management, because they do an outstanding job. The other thing I like to remind people on winter weather is we do not make those decisions based on adult drivers. We do a lot of those decision-making based on teenage drivers, because we have lots of those and we have school buses on the road. So just because your driveway looks great and your neighborhood looks great, it may not in Green Hill, or it may in Green Hill and it may not down in Etowah. So we certainly, we'll have a good time with it, but we'll try to get that information out. Calendar of events, Veterans History Appreciation Month in North Carolina. So grateful to be in a community that has celebrated this, and in a school district that celebrates our veterans. Those have been fun to see. Superintendent Teacher Advisory Council meets on Thursday. Not on here, we also meet with our Student Government Joint Association on Thursday as well. November 17th is Substitute Educators Day, and we all know how valuable those are. So certainly celebrating those folks. Our Thanksgiving break for all students and staff is the 22nd through the 24th. So that is coming quickly. The Superintendent Parent Teacher Advisory Council will meet on the 30th. We have National Special Education Day on December 2nd. And I'm really sad that Tawana is not here, because her Super Bowl is coming up on December 2nd. She has got us participating in the Hendersonville Christmas Parade. So we are going to have an activity bus, and we're going to decorate the activity bus, and we're going to be in the Hendersonville Christmas Parade. So I was going to let her invite you, but since she is under the weather and probably not listening at home or watching at home right now, I hope she's taking care of herself. We are going to have the bus ready to roll. We'll send some details out, and we want to get some of you to ride the bus with us. We're going to walk and hand out some things and some things from the district, but she is absolutely as motivated and as excited as I've ever seen her. And it really does make sense that we would have a presence there. So certainly we're all looking forward to that piece. And because it is a nighttime event, I hear she has looked for a light-up bow tie for me, so we'll see. There we go. And on a Saturday, so you just never know. I figure out of a Santa suit and a light-up bow tie, I'll take the light-up bow tie. Also, our school tours for December will take place on the 6th. We will be touring Clear Creek Elementary, Hendersonville Middle School, and Glen Marlowe Elementary. And then December 11th will be your next regular business meeting starting at 4 o'clock. So we're entering that busy holiday season. It will go by in a flash, and certainly look forward to all of these events and celebrations. So thank you for the opportunity to share.
All right, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And we're adjourned. Thank you.